2014. Now, without any further delay, let's begin today's webinar, Urban Planning with GeoMedia. I would now like to introduce your first speaker today, Vince Smith, Product Line Executive, GIS. Vince, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. Good day, everyone. My name is Vince Smith. I'm the Product Line Executive for GIS, the GeoMedia Desktop. I'm accompanied today by two other individuals, some colleagues of mine, David Glenn and Danny Kita. David is the Product Line Executive, Product Line Director for GIS, and Danny is one of our GeoMedia product managers. If you've been keeping up with some of the videos that or webinars that we've had in the last 3 to 6 months, we've been highlighting the features of the GeoMedia 2013 release, and I'd like to go over those again briefly before we get started with the rest of the webinar. A couple of the key features of the 2013 release: the fact that we've added a ribbon interface, we've modernized the GUI. It has more of a Microsoft Office look and feel. You can maximize the real estate that you've got in your map window by auto-hiding or minimizing the ribbon or the legend. There is a quick access toolbar and a My Workflow tool tab as well for customization. The second thing we've done is integrated with the ERDAS Apollo product for image display. So you can easily go out and find all that unstructured image data that's lying around on disk. You can query the Apollo catalog, combinations of a geospatial extent, any keywords that might have been stored against the image data, and time or date stamps that you've got against that data as well. And bring that back to the GeoMedia client. You can view that in a couple of different ways, either gridded or detailed or thumbnail views. Easily select the images that you'd like to bring to the desktop and bring them into the map window. The third thing that we've done for 2013 is integrate or update our labeling capabilities. And then specifically what we've added is the ability to have dynamic labeling. So you establish some rules. We've got some new conflict resolution strategies that gives us better overall label placement, pretty much to the cartographic quality that you need for printing and plotting maps if you want. But as you move and zoom and pan around inside of the map window, those labels are going to dynamically adjust for you. Fast display. We've implemented a client-side cache. Large amounts of data, hundreds of thousands, up to 1 million records now. What used to take a matter of a couple of maybe minutes to bring or open up a workspace now takes a matter of seconds. And that cache is kept up to date as users edit the data. And it is user configurable too, so you can set up that cache any way you like. So those are some of the things that we've been highlighting as part of the GeoMedia and GeoMedia Pro products. But I want to bring everyone's attention back to the 3 tiers of capabilities that we have now with GeoMedia. That is, we've been offering GeoMedia Essentials, GeoMedia Advantage, and GeoMedia Professional. And with GeoMedia Essentials, you've got the data access and query analysis. You got some image prep functionality as well. With Advantage, you've got the vector and raster and image analytics. So both feature data and terrain data can be analyzed at the same time. And then for the professional level, you've got more of the data capture and data management capabilities along with quality assurance and quality control. And these are the things that I want to start to highlight today in the context of this webinar. So again, with the GeoMedia Essentials 2013, that's been released. It's been out for some time. You've got all the data access that comes with GeoMedia and the GeoMedia Pro product across all the different data sources and data formats that GeoMedia can access. You've got GeoMedia's ad hoc dynamic analysis. You've got the rendering capabilities that come with GeoMedia and GeoMedia Pro. You've also got image prep, and the image prep comes with the Imagine Essentials product. Later on this month, in a matter of maybe a week or so, GeoMedia Advantage 2013 will be available for everyone. And to highlight some of the capabilities there, I've got a video I'll show in just a moment. But it provides everything that's already in the GeoMedia Essentials product, but it gives you gridded analysis with the vector data. You can do site location, hotspot analysis, corridor planning, and also generate any type of elevation artifacts such as contours, shaded relief, color-coded elevations, anything you might need for any type of mapping product that's out there. So what I'd like to do now is actually have a short video that I'd like to show you on GeoMedia Advantage. And Jessica, if you could give me the ball, I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay. So this is GeoMedia Advantage. This video actually demonstrates hotspot mapping, something that you would typically do to locate or identify where some incidents or events have occurred at maybe a higher or normal rate than normal. It's primarily applicable to a lot of the crime or traffic safety, traffic accidents, things of that nature, maybe even some traffic flows, some things that you might want to do as part of some urban planning exercises. We've got this video started, and what we're first going to do is create a density layer. We bring up the density command. We select some point feature classes that we want to have as the incident locations. Select an attribute containing the number of incidents at each location, and then input a name for the result. In this case, it's density service. And then we create a continuous service that takes into account both the proximity and intensity, or the number of occurrences that have occurred. We have a default bandwidth is being used, and we can actually stretch that out if we'd like. Next, we'll use some of these commands to change the default color, and then go into a study area. We access the legend for that surface layer that we had, and then use a color sequence to better visualize those results. So the next thing we can do is set the translucency. We got the top layer in the stack is the legend as a result of the obliterating the underlying data, so we can make it translucent to actually show the density layer along with the vector data that's kind of underneath that. The red areas here actually represent the more or the hottest areas, or where the highest density of the occurrence or the incidence exists. We can actually use the GeoMedia capabilities, the base GeoMedia, GeoMedia Pro capabilities to stylize the grid layer or the raster. In this case, the translucency option is used to decrease the opacity, and then allowing that data to kind of come through, the aerial photograph and everything else that's underneath that data. In this particular case, we're actually using a GeoMedia extension product, GeoMedia 3D, and you can easily see or move about that that incident information in a terrain view at the same time. You can toggle these things on and off. And notice that GeoMedia 3D reacts immediately and updates the view. See the pin dots? The pin dots, again, being the styles that are being used to indicate the numbers. The larger the dots, of course, the larger number of incidents there are in the area. And again, we can remove that, update GeoMedia 3D to show the results. And we can take those areas and make them into feature classes. So we can launch the classification hotspot detection command, do the vectorization. Having these as an area-based feature class is extremely useful and allows for further analysis inside of the GeoMedia product. In particular, we can start to use some of the spatial queries that exist. So we can select the grid layer containing the hotspots, specify the output type, and create the area themselves. And in this case, we're going to pick some, again, we're just using the base GeoMedia style commands to actually apply the styles that we want to the areas that are being created. So again, if you want in GeoMedia 3D, you can actually go back in and fly that path and look and see how that data looks like in GeoMedia 3D product. So that just gives you an example of some of the things that are in the GeoMedia Advantage 2013 release. Again, that release will be made in the next week or so. Now I want to speak to the GeoMedia Professional tier. Again, that tier combines everything that's already in Essentials and Advantage. It is more of the data management, data production tier of functionality. So it's got high productivity tools for capturing data, integrating that data, building enterprise-based databases. It does have a nice set of quality assurance capabilities for both feature geometry and attributes and connectivity. And it does provide an environment for which multiple users can access and edit data simultaneously. Provides version history and analysis of that feature data over time if you need that. But to highlight some of the quality assurance and some of the edge matching capabilities, I'm going to allow Danny Kita to take on the next couple of slides and show a couple of videos himself. Danny?
All right, thanks, Vince. Today's environment finds lots of data coming from many different sources, and at times this can be very challenging to first establish and then maintain data quality. GeoMedia Professional contains a number of geometric validation checks that can be performed on your data. So let's have a quick look at them. If you'd run the first video, please. What we'll be looking at is some street data that's in need of geometric validation, and it could be because it's data that's been provided from a third-party source, or perhaps it's newer, higher resolution data that's been collected in an annual update exercise. We're calling up the geometry validation tools, which contain a number of standard and specialized checks, and we're going to run them against the data. And we'll output the results to a queue. And then we'll use the queued edit tools to go through. And as you can see, there's a number of kinks that we've detected. So we're going to use the queued edit tool to review the errors that were found. Since these are geometry-specific types of errors, it's a good idea to first review the results to ensure that they're valid. And you can see as we're going through that they appear to be. That's certainly a kink. And if some of the results require more context, you can always bring up the main map window, as we'll do in a moment, and view them within the entirety of the map display, guided by the queued edit locator box, which also appears in the map window. You want to be sure that you agree that the errors detected are in fact errors. In this case, it's pretty straightforward, but may not be so with other data sets. And once you review the results and you're okay with the findings, you can rerun geometry validation. But this time we're going to do it with the autocorrect feature on. So we'll attempt to make the corrections to all the errors that we found. So in this case, we'll just choose the kinks. We know there's no other errors, and then we're going to turn the autocorrect on, and we'll let the process run again. So while we're running, let's look at the spike that I had zoomed in on in the main map window, and we'll see that it's going to be corrected as the process gets to that area. There it is. And you can see there are no items in the queue as well when the process is done because the errors have been auto-corrected. So in addition to the geometric validation tests that you've just seen, which check the quality of individual features, there are also connectivity checks that validate the relationships between features, as well as attribute validation checks to ensure that attribute values are appropriate or within a specified range. Next, we'll look at edge matching tools. These tools can be used when trying to integrate two data sets that happen to share a common boundary. An example of this would be new development and construction of an inner city area, or perhaps a new subdivision with completely new streets in the suburbs. Of course, you'd want to validate the data first before you tried to edge match it, so we're going to pick up where we left off in the previous video. If you'd run the video, please. The data that was validated, that we just did, is shown in light brown, and it's adjacent to another data set that we want to integrate it with, and that is in here shown in red. And if we zoom in on the boundary area, we can see that some of the roads don't connect. You can see it there. And we'll look at a few others. And then we can use a measuring tool to make some assessments to determine how much of a gap we're dealing with. Again, this is data specific, so we'd want to do a pretty extensive analysis. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. We're going to do two, and then we're going to move on. Once we're done, we'll set up the edge match rules. In this case, there are a number that are written for different tolerances. We can also control the weighting factor, as you'll see in a moment, that will help determine how we resolve any gaps, and you'll see that how that works in a bit as well. When we're satisfied with the rules, we can then make an edge match pass and identify the data sets and rule set that we want to use. We'll select the rule that's most appropriate given the data we're trying to integrate. You'll notice there's an auto-fix capability in the edge match dialog, but we're not going to use that just yet. Let's first make a pass and review the statistics and results in a QDedit map window. So we'll run the process, and we get the QDedit map window, and we have 19 candidates for edge matching. And we'll use the QDedit tool to in this case, we've already edge matched. Sorry, the video cut in. So that was showing actually with autocorrect on. I thought we were going to show first evaluating and then running it, but that's showing how the edge match automatically corrected it and joined the features. Again, this is something that's very data specific, so you'd want to do a lot of analysis first to be sure that the rules that you're running are going to accurately find the candidates correctly, and then once you're done, you would execute the auto fix, and it would join all of your data that has been deemed correct. One thing to remember, this again is very geometry specific, so the best practice is to test and evaluate and get to understand the data before committing to a plan of action. So that concludes the edge matching discussion. Back to you, Vince.
All right, thanks, Danny. I appreciate that. So again, everyone, that's some of the validation and QA functionality that is coming with the GeoMedia Professional tier and for 2013. What I'd like to do next is introduce David Glenn. David's going to walk us through some additional capabilities that's in GeoMedia Professional tier. In this case, we've got some advanced modeling functionality, being able to take your enterprise databases from a single feature model and include more advanced modeling for relationships and some business rules. So, David?
All right, thanks, Vince. One of the things about GeoMedia that makes it so powerful is the ability that it has to combine data from a huge variety of sources, as shown on the slide here, from CAD files all the way up to sophisticated SQL spatial databases, and to combine those together in a single integrated map view so that you can bring data from many places together and then bind it against spatial queries, spatial processing, any combination of analyses, and create a really powerful view of the world. Clearly that's powerful, and that's a significant part of the attraction of GeoMedia, that in the hands of a GIS professional we can create an accurate model of the world and do what-if scenarios. However, there's not everybody in our shops in every shop is involved in doing GIS analysis and is able to use tools at this level. And quite frequently, the GIS is a fundamental building block for the business of the company. It supports many different departments within the enterprise, and those departments need to be able to do their business, whether that's zoning work, tax assessment, land classification, water utility management. They need to be able to do that work and to depend on the quality of the data that they're working with and be able to use it in a way that doesn't require them to build this kind of complexity into their analysis just to get their work done. And that's really where the advantages of the advanced feature model are brought to the table. Advanced feature modeling, currently packaged with the Public Works and now embedded in the GeoMedia Professional tier, allows the GIS analysts, your professionals, to put the intelligence they have about the data into the data itself and put metadata into the system so that the software that people are using can give them a representation of the world that's accurate and truthful, but is also very amenable to them being able to do their work. When we talk about advanced feature model, we're really talking about three things. We're talking about the rules, that is the business rules, the characteristics of the data that are part of your business. We're talking about relationships. Different data entities have relationships between them. Certain types of parcels reside in certain types of zones. Water valves are connected to water mains. Those types of relationships that are important in the presentation of the data. And then third, operations, which is the instructions to the software as to how to maintain these relationships and how to behave with respect to the rules. So the demonstration I want today just touches a little bit on how the advanced feature model capability of GeoMedia Professional enables you to add intelligence to your data and enable both your data entry and your analysts downstream to do their work without having to have the same sophisticated use of tools that perhaps a GIS professional might need to use. All right, let me share my desktop again. We'll bring up GeoMedia. We're using a pretty simple model. And I guess one of the advantages of using this particular model is that it is one that is delivered with the product, so you can go through this same exercise yourself and explore and learn about the capabilities. So I had hoped to use an urban planning model that was from an urban planning exercise, but I thought it better perhaps to just show the basics of advanced feature modeling with something that was delivered to you so you could do these exercises. So the first thing is pretty simple. I simply want to show a very simple capability that's important actually in maintaining your database, and that is that the attribute values that we input for any given feature, that they behave, that they adhere to the business rules of the corporation. For example, you can see that for this water main pipe that there's a pick list associated with it, that the size of the standard sizes that are used in the water utility system at this corporation, there are a fixed number of sizes, and they're expected to be in that list. One of the things, though, that the advanced feature model brings to the table is the ability to detect that your operator was busy and didn't fill in the list of the materials correctly. So to simulate that, the GeoMedia Properties dialog allows you to select blank as, for example, for material. You say, well, that's okay. Well, that may not be okay. It may be that you need to enforce and detect that there are data has been entered into your system that didn't follow the business rule, that didn't populate, for example, the material type. Perhaps they were placing a lot of water mains really fast and they didn't want to take time to fill in the attributes and they forgot one or two. So that's important to your system. You want to depend on the integrity of your system. So we can run a quick validation. Public Works provides a validation capability, says go check this system with respect to my rules. So in this case, we're going to select water mains. We're going to say to validate it. It found some issues, and let's display those issues. We'll bring up a data window. We'll put that query results into the data window. Just want to bring it down where it's not so conflictual with the map view. And the thing you don't see here, you see there's two errors, and we're going to explore those errors later. You see that there's two water mains that have some trouble with them, but you don't see any problem with that one water main which we just edited. Well, that's a problem. I don't want that to reside in the system without the type being processed. So with Public Works, the feature model command, in the advanced feature model, we can go into the water main, and we can go look at the water main class, and it has certain attributes, and in those attributes there's our material attribute. And we can see it also has rules. In the feature model command of advanced feature modeling, you can add rules to say these are rules that are important that I want validated. So we can say create a rule class. There's a special rule that's included in the system that says called attribute pick list, and we can name it to suit ourselves. But basically it says when the attributes are entered in this particular one for material, guarantee or validate that they are from the pick list. So having added that into the system, it reloads the metadata for the system, rechecks the validation. And now all of a sudden in our view, we see there are three errors. And one of the errors, a new error here, is that the value of material is not in pick list. So it correctly identified that the operator had failed to populate the material value. So obviously we can go back, we can fix that, put it back to polyethylene, and it's removed from the validation. So a very simple thing, pick listing, but having rules in the system that you can put there that says these values that the operator is entering here must be validated against the pick list. Further, and we could talk further, but we won't today, you could actually add software that said automatically populate these values with default values for them. So that's just an operation you could do. So while we're here, and we've got this validation on water mains here, well, let's take a look at some of those, and they'll give us some notions of things that are important. Here's one that says, connected feature error, hydrant branch T is not on feature. Well, the very necessary implication of that is that there is a relationship between water mains and hydrant branch T's. So let's go take a look at that. The problem is, you can see it's highlighted here when I selected it. I have a window set up that we can use to go to that. Okay, here's the error, and it says that this field here, this is a hydrant branch T, and it says the rule in the system says that hydrant branch T, when placed in the system and associated to a water main, must be geometrically on the water main geometry. And clearly it's being detected as it's not, so we want to fix that problem. So it's pretty simple to fix. We can simply go into Edit, and we can move it. And the snap says it's on the line, and as soon as it snaps, it clears the validation error, said no problem. So not only the dynamic behavior of GeoMedia, which is to run its analysis dynamically as you change the source data, is very helpful, but also the fact that we put the rules in the system that is to be checking. So we can take a look now, and we can look at that water main. We can, let me go back into Public Works and just show you another characteristic. That water main is selected, and it shows you in the associations command that it's related to a hydrant branch T, which is the one we just repaired. It's also at one end attached to a water cross and to a water T. So the associations command allows you to actually see those associations, and we can actually take any given related feature, make it active, look at its properties, and continue looking at the other. We can look at the hydrant pipe if we want to, make it active, look at its properties. All of those associations are automatically connected for us. We can trace them, we can walk through them, we can validate that the utility network is snapped together correctly. All right, let's move on and take a look at some of the other operations that are in the system. So that's a demonstration of pick list attribute behaviors, relationships being formed between different entities, and some of the rules about how those relationships are formed. For example, another rule that that I wanted to show you is something that has to do with placing water tees, which has a special rule. Let me get back to the display location that I want to. All right, so let's look here. In this location, I'm going to place a water tee. Here's my placement. Okay. Now the water tee, I'm going to place it here. I'm going to place it, and my intention is to place it on this water main. The desire of the model, the rule of the model, is to say that whenever a water tee is placed in a water main, it should break it, and it should be in the model, it should be one water main connected to the water tee, and then the second water main continuing from the other side of the tee. And in fact, we place it, it gives us an opportunity to fill in the properties of the water tee. Then it immediately breaks the original water main into two geometries and creates two records in the database. Here's the first record, offers me an opportunity to change the attributes if I want to, and then it shows me the second water main and the attributes, which I can also change the IDs and so forth if I want to. I don't like the automatically generated ID. So that's just another rule in the system. That was just the way that water tees are placed. One of the operations, the rule says that it's to split when it places, and there's an operation in the system that says when you're doing insert feature, that's the way they are to operate. One final demonstration of this, I'll place another feature, the water main itself, and demonstrate some of the other rules that you can put in. Remember, all of these rules, these rules are built-in rules that you can use. They have to do with connectivity, but there's a variety of other rules in the system that you can learn about. And in fact, you can write your own custom rules, put them in the system, and your own custom operations. So in placing a water main, what we'll notice with a water main is that if you try to place it, the very first thing it asks you as you click your first point is what feature do you want to place at the beginning of the water main. One of the rules on water mains is that it is to have a nodal type feature at each end, and any of these features are valid points, valid features that you can place at the front. So this is helpful. This allows your operator to get it right to start with. If I escape out of that and back up, I can snap actually to an existing water plug, place it off, and when I've finished in the feature, it allows me to fill in those attributes. I'm going to be a bad guy and not fill them in right now. And then it basically will also say this water main is supposed to end with a node. So pick the thing you want it to end with, and we'll say a water plug, for example. Fill in its attributes and so forth, and let it go. All right? So again, just another example of the rules in the system to say how the relationships are to be formed and how they're to be enforced. All right. One other rule I thought that would be interesting to look at is this first one that came up in our first, in one of our earlier discussions. Let me go look at this. This one says that when you form a relationship between a water main and a water plug, the fitting sizes must be the same. So not only can we do geometric checks to form the connectivity, but we can do attribute checks between related entities. So again, I think I've got a window there that we can go to that will give us the mismatch sizes. Okay, let's close that. All right, here on this feature, we've got some mismatch sizes on this water main and the water plug. So let's take a look at that. I'll bring the associations command up. Here is that one feature. It says it's located to this water plug at this end. Let's take a look back at the water main. The water main's properties has a size of 300 millimeters. Okay. Let's make the water plug active and look at its properties. Oh, 400 millimeters. Well, one of those is right. So let's assume that the water plug is incorrect, and we need to change it to 300 millimeters. So we do that. We say OK. It's immediately removed. It's valid. We're good to go. So again, in all of these ways, the rules in the system allow you to guarantee the integrity of your data and those relationships. It means that all the downstream systems that are using this data can depend on this data being right because you have the ability to validate it and ensure that all the connectivity is there, the spatial relationships are good, the attributes that describe the properties of these water mains or zones or parcels or land classifications, they can be guaranteed to adhere to the business rules of your system. One other thing I thought I would show, and just to give you an example, that not all types of spatial relationships have to do with connectivity. Let me just zoom in here and do one more. All right, this is a rule with respect to valve boxes. So let me, I'm going to place a valve box. And I'm going to place it here. All right. And now I'm going to validate. I'm going to use Public Works to validate the features. We're going to validate the valve boxes. The purpose of that is to show you that there is something invalid about that. What's invalid about it? Well, let's go take a look at the errors that it's giving us. What it's telling us is that there's a cardinality error, that there's an out of bounds for min and max 1 and 10. Well, let's go look at what it's actually saying to us. And I can look in my Public Works, in my feature model command. It shows me the rules with respect to the water valve box. It says in a forming association rule classes, it's related to valves. Okay, so it's supposed to have a relationship to valves. And there's a rule associated to that. And that rule is a cardinality rule. And it says it's supposed to be between 1 to 10 valves associated to a valve box. And further, it's supposed to be that those valves are supposed to be placed on the interior of the valve box. So those rules were built into this system. The software is just paying attention to it, so when you validate, it checks both of those rules. There's no valves there, so we need to fix that problem. So we can go back. We can go back into and insert a feature. We can go in and replace a valve. Valves, let's just go ahead and place it on this water main. And when we do that, it will, for sake of time, I'm not going to fill in the attributes. That's a bad guy, but I'm going to do it. And you notice it's splitting the water main. Valves split the water main, so let it split into 2 pieces. And then not only did it split and place it appropriately in its association to the water main, but it also formed the right association to the water valve, and that error is gone. There's the minimum criteria of having 1 water valve within the valve box is satisfied, and so the model is valid at this point. So in summary, just basically the advanced feature model system allows you to define rules that your data is supposed to adhere to. It allows you to define custom rules or to use a wide variety of rules that are delivered with the system, and you can associate them to any features. It allows you to form and define relationships between features that you want enforced, and then to check that those relationships are formed appropriately, both from an attribute and a geometric point of view. And then it also allows you to write and add custom operations so that when your operators are placing or editing data, many of these relationships can be automatically maintained and the operations formed for them so they don't have to manually go summon through these processes. So it's a very flexible, very expansive system. It allows you to get a lot of value out of the data itself at the front end so that the downstream systems can rely on the integrity of the data. All right, Vince, I'll pass it back over to you.
All right, thanks, David. And again, everything that David just showed you is part of the GeoMedia Professional 2013 tier. Before we get into a summary, I would like to just point out to everyone on the webinar here about the Hexagon Live Conference in Las Vegas this year. We'll have many sessions there, many workshops and training sessions on such of the topics that are being discussed today as part of this webinar. So we hope that everyone will join us if you can. Just a quick summary before we get into the Q&A. We're talking about urban planning and modeling with using GeoMedia. With GeoMedia Advantage, what you've got there is the combination of vector and raster analysis. In this particular example, we were showing hotspot analysis. Things that you can do with that are crime, traffic flow, traffic accidents, all types of things that need to be considered when doing urban planning. The GeoMedia Professional tier, what Danny showed you today is the ability to bring in a variety of different data sources, validate both geometry and attributes, edge match that data if you need to, all for the gain or the purpose of building enterprise-oriented geospatial databases. And then finally, what David showed just now, the advanced feature modeling, allowing the definition of feature relationships, incorporation of business rules, basically allows the users to focus on their business operations as opposed to worrying about the integrity or the accuracy of the data underneath it. Those relationships and business rules make sure that everything that you do adheres to those at all times. So those are just some of the things with the GeoMedia tiers. Hopefully, again, we'll have more to share with everyone if you can make it to the Hexagon Conference in just a couple of weeks. So with that, we can go to any questions that you might have. And go ahead and use the Q&A box in the webinar interface there, and if you will put those questions in there, we'll read them off and answer as many of them as we can in the time that we have left. So we do have one question regarding GeoMedia 3D. The video I showed incorporated both with the GeoMedia Advantage capability for hotspot analysis, showed some navigation using our GeoMedia 3D extension. We have been able to bring that up to compatibility, but we will not make it available probably until after the Hexagon Conference, maybe sometime in July or August. We'll make that first available for our internal organization in that time frame. The release for GeoMedia 3D probably will come at the later part of this year. More questions?
Thanks, Vince and David. I just wanted to remind everybody as well, if you would like to send in a question, just to type your question into the Q&A in the bottom right, and just remember to click send after you're finished typing in your question, and then David and Vince and Danny can go ahead and address those.
It seems as though there's everyone's a little bit tongue-tied right now. Not a whole lot of people are actually want to use their fingers and type in some questions. But I thought maybe Danny, if you don't mind, with GeoMedia Professional tier and some of the other validation and capabilities that are coming with that, maybe you could describe a few of them for the audience. Is that possible?
Sure. I guess one of the things I was thinking to point out, when David was talking about the rules for the pipe fittings and things, those could easily be captured and written as attribute rules. So that might be one of the things. If you wanted to automate that process a little bit more, you could write some attribute rules that would essentially find all of the pipe fittings that didn't match a certain specification, and then you'd be able to feed that into the queued edit mechanism and then have a methodical way to work through them so that you know at the end that all of the anomalies that existed in the data would have been corrected. Then we also talked about the fact that there are some connectivity checks. What we showed in the video today was essentially looking at the integrity of an individual feature geometry. The connectivity checks would go through some prescribed quality assurance checks for how features are related to each other and look for any outliers that existed between them, and again, feed that to queued edit, and you'd be able to methodically work through and correct any of those as well.
All right, thanks, Danny. So we do have a couple of questions that have come in. One of which is we have GeoMedia, there's someone who has GeoMedia Pro under maintenance and is curious to know if the capabilities I showed for grid analytics or 3D is part of GeoMedia Pro. It's not part of the GeoMedia Pro product, but it's part of the professional tier, and there is I have to make a distinction there. I apologize that it's maybe a little bit confusing, but with GeoMedia Professional Tier 2013, you actually do get all the all the grid analysis and all the capabilities that David showed and Danny showed. 3D, however, is still a separate extension to the GeoMedia Professional tier, so you do not get that. And in order to move up from GeoMedia Pro to that professional tier, you will have to go through an exchange process of the licenses. It is a different license that you'll need. The other question that's come in is whether or not we can do with GeoMedia Advantage any type of flood analysis, and of course, yes. The answer to that is yes. For this purpose, we only showed some hotspot, but if you need to do viewshed, watershed, line of sight, those are all types of analysis that can be done with that GeoMedia Advantage product.
Vince, I might also mention on the advanced feature modeling capability, this is not particularly in one particular database. Any of our read-write databases support advanced feature model definitions. So you can have an existing spatial database and add advanced feature modeling to it, adding rules and customizations as you like, and these commands will work quite happily with that.
Thanks, David. Okay, we got a couple more other questions coming in. I think we can field just a few more before we run out of time. So the question is in respect to the GeoMedia Smart Client product and whether or not the rules that have been created through the GeoMedia Professional tier are rules that can be used in some form or fashion or some way inside a Smart Client. I'm assuming that's the question, is some of the things that David had showed with the advanced feature modeling, some of the business rules.
The rules themselves are metadata that's deposited with the data, and the GeoMedia Smart Client is not itself intelligent about those rules. It continues to operate, but in combination with the GeoMedia Professional tier, the validation commands as Smart Client works, you can interactively keep the validation checks. So as you manipulate, your rules are constantly checked because all of the Smart Client operations are passing through. So yes, there is, in terms of validation and the metadata being there, yes. In terms of the Smart Client being able to be intelligent about enforcing those rules, no, that connection is not yet there today.
There's a question about the GeoMedia Grid product and its relationship to GeoMedia 3D. And again, the focus for this webinar has been primarily on the GeoMedia Advantage and GeoMedia Professional tiers. It is true that some of the capabilities that we've shown today are available in what we refer to as the GeoMedia add-on products. And the vector analysis or the grid analysis that we've done, the grid algebra that we've done for today is part of the GeoMedia Grid product, which is sometimes bundled with GeoMedia 3D. However, the GeoMedia Advantage product does not do that. So GeoMedia 3D is kept as a separate extension to GeoMedia Advantage. If you have the GeoMedia Grid and GeoMedia 3D products separately, you can continue to get those with the 2013 release. But in terms of the capabilities that we've shown today, I think you can see that with Advantage and Professional tiers, you've got a lot more functionality and capabilities that you've had with the individual products in the past. More questions?
Yeah, Vince, I just have a comment to add to, I'm talking about the GeoMedia Professional tier. Some of the tools that I was showing today, which are in the Professional tier, really only scratch the surface of what's available. We haven't even talked about some conflation tools that are available where, the demo that I did with EdgeMatch was showing how linear data that shared a common boundary could be joined together. You could use conflation tools where you had overlapping data so that, if there's annual updates with maybe newer, higher resolution data and you want to bring that in and update and end up with a higher quality database as a result, there's a whole slew of conflation tools that would allow you to go through that process to find the redundant data matches and then work through and come to some rules that would allow you to automatically run through, or at least, let me say assist, because there's still some manual component that you would have to do to that, but set up a very automated process for bringing in overlapping and maybe higher resolution data to update the existing database.
Good point, Daddy. I appreciate that. I haven't done a good job of articulating, some of those additional capabilities that's available in that Professional tier. So I appreciate you pointing those things out. One other question, a little bit unrelated to the webinar today, is a question regarding GeoMedia Pro and macro recording. GeoMedia Pro does not have a macro or a way to record individual key clicks into a macro. I think that's what we're speaking to here. However, we are looking at the possibility of including a visual environment for building custom commands. So pretty much the same capabilities, maybe in a little bit different form than a recorded capability, but still just as powerful as doing that with a visual authoring environment. But that's something that is in our vision for GeoMedia Pro. I guess the point there is touch base with us or get back with me individually in the future, and we'll see how that roadmap pans out for the future. Any other questions? All right, well, I appreciate everyone's time today. Hopefully you've learned a few things about the GeoMedia Advantage and GeoMedia Professional tiers that you didn't know in the past, some things that if you're just a GeoMedia or GeoMedia Pro customer today, some things that you could look forward to. There are, I would say, contact your local sales rep if some of the things are of interest and you'd like to move up from a GeoMedia or GeoMedia Pro license into one of these tiers of capabilities that's available to you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you again to all of our speakers, and thank you again for joining us today. This does conclude our Urban Planning with GeoMedia webinar. You are now free to disconnect. Thanks, everyone.